Imagine waking up every morning with a fire in your gut, not to avoid challenges, but to chase them, attack them, devour them. Imagine your brain wired so powerfully that the very thing most people fear becomes the fuel that drives you. You're not running from resistance anymore. You're running toward it because you know that every tough challenge is the doorway to the strongest, boldest version of you. Today, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to help you reprogram yourself so deeply that your mind craves challenge the way it used to crave comfort. Let's unlock the power now. You know, most people walk through life believing their brain is like a computer with a fixed set of programs, like whatever they got stuck with at birth is all they're ever going to have, but that's not how it works. Your brain is not static, it's alive, and it's hungry for growth if you learn how to feed it. Every time you face a tough challenge, every time you step outside your comfort zone, your brain doesn't just copy. It adapts, it rewires itself. Those neurons in your head, the pathways you think are hardwired are constantly changing. And here's the kicker, the brain actually gets stronger in response to difficulty, just like a muscle grows when you lift weights. The more you challenge it, the more it demands growth. The more it demands growth, the more capable you become, not just mentally, but in everything you do. Think about the times in your life when you felt stretched, not the comfortable, easy days, but those moments where you had to dig deeper, think faster, push harder. You survived them, didn't you? You made it through. And if you pay attention, you'll notice something incredible. After each challenge, you feel a little more confident, a little more capable, a little more alive. That's your brain celebrating. That's it rewiring. That's it learning that tough doesn't mean unbearable. It means opportunity. And here's what most people don't realize, your brain actually craves that growth. But here's the trick. It won't come naturally if you don't create the right environment. Most people avoid challenges because their brain associates difficulty with danger. It says, whoa, this is risky, stay safe. And so people settle. They settle for mediocrity, they settle for easy. But here's the truth, you don't just want to survive in life, you want to thrive. And thriving comes from forcing your brain to expand, to see beyond the limitations it's been programmed to believe are permanent. So how do you hack your brain to crave challenges instead of fearing them? First, you have to understand that your brain is like a muscle. If you never exercise it, it shrinks, it weakens, and it starts making excuses. But when you expose it to difficulty, just a little at a time, it grows stronger. Every problem you solve, every fear you face, every discomfort you endure is like a rep in the gym of your mind. And here's what's fascinating. The brain doesn't just strengthen the pathways you use, it also creates new ones, new connections, new ways to think, new ways to solve problems you never thought you could solve. I want you to imagine your life as a series of mountains. Most people are walking through a valley, comfortable, safe, but looking at those mountains and thinking, that's impossible. That's too high. I could never climb that. But your brain doesn't see it that way once you start training it. Once you start deliberately putting yourself in challenging situations, your brain starts to rewire itself to crave the climb. It starts to see obstacles as invitations instead of threats. And then when you finally stand at the peak, looking down at the valley you left behind, you feel a power that is addictive. You start wanting more, not because it's easy, but because it stretches you, because it makes you more alive than anything else ever could. And here's the amazing part. This is not some rare talent reserved for a few people. This is built into every human being. Every one of us has the capacity to grow, to rewire, to crave difficulty, to thrive in the face of adversity. But most people don't understand it, so they never push themselves. They never test their limits. They don't know how to intentionally feed their brain the challenges it needs to grow. And that's why they live lives far below their potential. The first step in rewiring your brain is awareness. You have to recognize the patterns in your life where you've been avoiding growth. Think about it. How often do you take the easy right? How often do you stick with what's comfortable instead of stretching yourself? These are the habits that keep your brain locked in mediocrity. But here's the truth. Every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you face difficulty instead of running from it, you are literally reshaping your brain. You are creating pathways that say, I am capable. I am strong. I can handle more than I thought. And over time, those pathways become automatic. Your brain starts craving the challenge because it knows what it feels like to grow, to evolve, to succeed. And let me be honest with you, this is not always easy. Growth is uncomfortable. Facing a tough challenge will make your heart race. Your mind will scream at you to stop, to stay safe, to avoid risk. But that's exactly the point. The discomfort is the signal that you are expanding. That signal is the message from your brain saying, you're about to create a new connection. You're about to become stronger. If you run from that discomfort, your brain will remain small. But if you lean into it, if you embrace it, your brain will start to rewire itself to crave that very thing you used to fear. And here's the last piece of the puzzle: repetition. You don't just challenge your brain once and expect it to crave difficulty forever. You have to make it a habit. You have to deliberately put yourself in situations that stretch you mentally, emotionally, physically, over and over again. Every time you do, your brain learns a new lesson about what you are capable of. And eventually, what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. What once felt scary begins to feel exciting. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel like a natural part of your growth. So start small if you have to. Take on challenges that scare you just a little bit. Then take on bigger ones and bigger still. With every step, your brain will adapt. Your mind will grow hungrier for challenge. And soon you will find yourself not avoiding the mountains in your life. You will be climbing them with a fire in your soul that cannot be extinguished. And when that happens, you will realize the truth. Life isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about seeking it, embracing it, and letting it transform you into someone stronger, smarter, and unstoppable. You see, most people walk through life running from pain. They think discomfort is a signal to stop, a sign that something is wrong, that they're failing, and that's where they get stuck. They see a challenge, they see a difficult situation, and their first instinct is to retreat, to avoid, to numb themselves with excuses or distractions. But here's the truth: pain is not your enemy. Pain is not a stop sign. Pain is the signal that you are on the edge of growth. Pain is the whisper, the push, the call that says you are about to level up. Every moment of discomfort, every struggle, every hard choice is actually an opportunity dressed in disguise if you learn how to read it. If you learn how to reframe it, you will start to crave the very thing most people spend their lives running from. Now, let me ask you something. Think about the last time you felt challenged, really stretched. Maybe it was a tough project at work, a difficult conversation, a physical challenge, or even a relationship that tested you. How did you respond? Most people would tell you they panicked. They doubted themselves, or they tried to avoid it altogether. But some people, very few, actually see it differently. They see that moment of tension, that spike of stress, and they lean into it. They welcome it. They say, this is exactly where I need to be. And that's the difference. That's the pivot point that separates ordinary people from unstoppable people. The key to craving challenges is learning to reframe your relationship with pain. Pain does not mean failure. Pain does not mean weakness. Pain is proof that you are alive, that you are growing, that you are pushing the limits of what you thought possible. When you can reframe it in your mind this way, something incredible happens. Suddenly, the things that once terrified you start to feel like invitations, invitations to rise, invitations to evolve, invitations to become more than you ever imagined. You start seeing every obstacle as a stepping stone rather than a wall. You start seeing every difficulty as a teacher rather than a threat. And here's something most people don't realize: your brain actually thrives on challenge when you learn to frame it this way. Your nervous system, your mind, your entire being is wired to seek growth, but it only learns this if you consciously train it. You have to consciously decide that the discomfort you feel is your ally, not your enemy. You have to consciously tell yourself, this is not pain, this is progress. And when you do, your body starts to respond differently. The stress that would normally paralyze you now excites you. Your heart races, but it's no longer fear, it's energy. Your mind sharpens, your focus intensifies, you feel alive, fully alive in a way that easy, comfortable days could never give you. And it's not just about mental toughness. Reframing pain reshapes your entire life. Think about it: when you see challenges as opportunities, you start taking bigger risks, making bolder moves, stepping into situations that would have terrified you before. Doors start opening that you never even knew existed. Your confidence skyrockets because you realize something profound: you are not defined by comfort. You are defined by how you respond to adversity. You are defined by how you lean into what scares you, how you embrace what challenges you, how you transform pain into power. But here's the catch: you can't just tell yourself this once and expect it to stick. You have to practice it. You have to seek out small moments of discomfort and train your brain to see them differently. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's tackling a project that feels overwhelming. Maybe it's physically pushing yourself to a new limit. Each time you do, you are teaching your mind a new pattern. You are literally rewiring your brain to see challenge as fuel, not as a threat. And over time, what once felt painful begins to feel invigorating. What once made you want to retreat now makes you want to lean in. Your brain starts to crave it because it knows that the growth that comes from discomfort is the most powerful, the most lasting, the most transformative growth there is. And let me tell you something else: there's magic in this. When you stop running from pain, when you start reframing it as growth, you start seeing your life differently. You notice opportunities where others see problems. You notice lessons where others see failures. You notice the strength inside of you that you didn't even know existed. And that strength becomes addictive. You start seeking out challenges not because they are easy, but because you know what they will do for you. You start craving growth because growth feels better than comfort ever could. Most people will never experience this because they've been trained to avoid discomfort. They've been trained to seek safety above all else. But safety is an illusion. Comfort is temporary. True fulfillment comes from embracing what scares you, from leaning into what challenges you, from facing the moments that make you want to shrink, but instead choosing to rise. Every time you do, you are proving something to yourself. You are proving that you are stronger than fear, braver than doubt, and more capable than you ever imagined. And here's the most exciting part: the more you do this, the easier it becomes. The brain adapts. It starts craving the very things that once terrified you. It starts producing a hunger for growth, a hunger for challenge, a hunger for the moments that stretch you beyond what you thought was possible. And once that hunger takes hold, you will find yourself chasing opportunities that most people run from. You will find yourself thriving in situations that would have broken you before. You will find yourself living a life filled with energy, purpose, and unstoppable momentum. So start paying attention to the pain in your life. Don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't fight it. Reframe it. Let it teach you, shape you, and transform you. Every challenge, every difficulty, every uncomfortable moment is a gift. It is a signal that you are on the path to becoming stronger, smarter, and more resilient than you ever imagined. The brain that learns to love challenge is the brain that will create a life most people only dream about. Most people think motivation comes from sheer willpower. They believe if they just push hard enough, if they grit their teeth and force themselves to do something difficult, they'll succeed. But here's the truth: willpower is limited. It fades. It burns out. The real secret isn't forcing yourself. It's learning how to hack your brain so that it actually wants the very thing you need to do. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by activating your brain's natural reward system. Your brain is built to seek pleasure and avoid pain. That's its job. But what most people don't realize is that you can train it to crave the satisfaction that comes from tackling tough challenges. You can literally make your brain addicted to growth. Think about it when you were a kid. What made you keep going? Maybe it was learning to ride a bike. Maybe it was mastering a game. Maybe it was earning a reward for something you accomplished. Every time you achieved a small win, your brain released dopamine, a chemical that literally makes you feel good. That dopamine hit told your brain, yes, this is something worth repeating. This is something you want to do again. And the fascinating part is that same mechanism works for the challenges you face as an adult. The problem is most people never link dopamine with hard work or growth. They link it with comfort, food, entertainment, avoidance. And that's why they procrastinate, why they stay in their comfort zone, why they avoid the very challenges that could transform them. But what if you flip that? What if you could trigger dopamine with the hard things instead of the easy things? What if you could train your brain to feel excitement at the thought of a challenge rather than fear? That's the difference between people who coast through life and people who rise to greatness. It starts with breaking your tasks into small, measurable wins. Every time you complete a step towards something hard, your brain gets a hit of reward. It says, yes, this is progress. Keep going. And the more you practice this, the more your brain starts craving the process itself, craving the momentum, craving the growth. Here's a practical way to think about: imagine a mountain that seems impossible to climb. Most people look at it and freeze. Too high, too hard, I can't do it. But if you break that climb into smaller milestones, step by step, ledge by ledge, every time you reach a milestone, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. You feel a little thrill, a little rush, a little surge of satisfaction. That's your brain learning to love the climb. And over time, those small victories compound into a sense of momentum so powerful that the mountain doesn't feel intimidating anymore. It feels exciting. It feels irresistible. That's how you turn challenge into craving. And this isn't just theory. Our brains are wired for pattern recognition. When you create patterns of small wins and reward your brain for progress, you are literally rewiring it. You are teaching it to associate effort with pleasure, growth with joy, struggle with triumph. And here's what happens next. Once your brain starts craving these wins, it begins to anticipate them. It starts looking forward to challenges. It starts scanning your life for opportunities to stretch, to improve, to evolve. What once felt like a burden now feels like an adventure. What once felt like a chore now feels like a thrill. And that's where the magic happens, when your brain is on your side, cheering you on instead of resisting you. But here's the thing, you have to be deliberate. You can't just wait for motivation to strike. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes like the wind. What you can control is how you train your brain to find reward in the things that matter most. Start by setting up small wins in areas where you want to grow. Finish a task you've been avoiding, tackle a problem you've been putting off. Push yourself physically or mentally, and each time you succeed, celebrate it, not with a cake or a binge, but with recognition, with acknowledgement, with gratitude. Say to yourself, I did it. I moved forward, I'm stronger than I was yesterday. That acknowledgement triggers reward, trains your brain, and reinforces the pattern. Over time, you'll notice something incredible. Your brain will start to seek these moments of progress on its own. You'll start craving challenges because your mind associates them with the exhilaration of growth. You'll start taking on things that once terrified you because the anticipation of achievement outweighs the fear. That's when you realize the difference between surviving and thriving. Thriving isn't about luck or talent. It's about engineering your mind so that it naturally seeks what will make you stronger. And it works in every area of life: relationships, career, health, personal growth. Anywhere you face obstacles, anywhere you want to improve, this principle applies. You create patterns of reward for effort, and your brain starts craving the very challenges you once avoided. You become unstoppable because you are no longer fighting against yourself. You are no longer negotiating with your own doubts and fears. Your brain becomes your ally, driving you forward with enthusiasm and focus. Here's a story I want you to imagine. Someone faces a task they've been avoiding for months. Maybe it's a presentation at work. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's a workout routine they've been putting off. At first, fear grips them. Resistance pulls at them. But then they break it into manageable steps. They accomplish the first step. A rush of dopamine hits. They feel good. They accomplish the second step. Another surge. By the time they finish, the fear is gone, replaced by excitement, energy, and momentum. That's the power of reward-driven progress. That's the way your brain learns to crave challenges. And the beauty of this method is that it compounds. One small win leads to another. One challenge overcome creates the momentum to tackle the next. Your brain starts anticipating success. It begins to crave the satisfaction that comes from pushing your limits. That craving fuels action, and action creates results. And before you know it, you've transformed yourself, not just mentally, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You've created a cycle of unstoppable growth. So start today. Don't wait for inspiration or motivation to magically appear. Don't rely on fleeting willpower. Instead, deliberately engineer your brain to crave challenge. Break down your tasks into achievable steps. Celebrate progress and create patterns of reward. Over time, your mind will start to chase growth the way it once chased comfort. You will start to crave the very challenges that once scared you. You will start to see life differently. You will start to live differently. The moment your brain starts seeking growth over comfort, everything changes. Opportunities that once seemed daunting now excite you. Obstacles that once paralyzed you now energize you. Challenges that once drained you now fuel you. And that, my friend, is how you transform from someone who survives life into someone who dominates it, someone who thrives in the face of adversity, someone who truly becomes unstoppable. Most people approach challenges with fear. They see a problem, a difficult task, a high-pressure situation, and their first instinct is to shrink back, to ask, can I really handle this? That's the survival response wired into all of us, and for most of life, it keeps people playing small, stuck in the same patterns, watching others succeed while they hesitate. But what if I told you there is a completely different way to approach difficulty? What if I told you that you could train your mind to respond to every challenge with curiosity instead of fear? Curiosity is one of the most powerful tools you have for rewiring your brain, for transforming fear into fuel, for craving challenges instead of avoiding them. Think about it for a second. Curiosity is natural. It's human. It's the reason a child explores the world without hesitation, touching, tasting, asking questions, testing limits. There's no fear in curiosity. There's only wonder, fascination, and the drive to learn. That same curiosity can be harnessed in adulthood, even in the most difficult circumstances. When you shift your mindset from fear to curiosity, everything changes. Suddenly, the challenge you dreaded becomes a puzzle to solve, an experiment to run, a game to play. You're no longer asking, can I survive this? You're asking, what can I learn from this? What is this situation teaching me? And that shift in questioning rewires your brain to see opportunity where you once saw threat. Here's the key: the brain craves information. It wants to figure things out. It wants to solve problems. When you approach challenges with curiosity, you engage this natural drive. Instead of shutting down in fear, your brain starts scanning for solutions, patterns, and insights. You start noticing things that others miss because their minds are frozen in worry or doubt. Curiosity activates your problem-solving network, your creativity, your intuition, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every challenge you approach with curiosity rewires your brain to seek out complexity, to enjoy stretching itself, to crave the process of growth. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're facing a difficult project at work, one that seems overwhelming. Most people feel anxious, maybe even paralyzed. But if you approach it with curiosity, the question changes. Instead of thinking, this is too much, I might fail, you start asking, what can I discover here? What strategies can I test? What opportunities are hidden in this challenge? That simple shift transforms your nervous system, your mindset, your approach. You become energized rather than stressed. You become engaged rather than resistant. You start seeing paths forward instead of walls. And once your brain starts thinking this way, you begin to crave more of it. Curiosity also reframes failure. When you approach a challenge with fear, mistakes feel devastating. They reinforce your insecurities. They trigger avoidance. But when you approach a challenge with curiosity, mistakes become experiments. They become data points. They become information about what works and what doesn't. Every misstep teaches you something, and the brain begins to associate difficulty with insight rather than punishment. You start to crave feedback, to seek lessons, to explore edges you once feared. And that's when growth accelerates because your mind is no longer resisting, it's engaged. And here's something people often overlook: curiosity makes the hard work enjoyable. That's right, enjoyable. Most people think growth is supposed to be painful, that effort is supposed to feel like suffering. But when curiosity is driving your actions, difficulty becomes interesting, even exciting. You start to notice patterns, connections, and solutions that make the challenge feel like a puzzle you're eager to solve. Your brain releases dopamine not just when you succeed, but when you explore, investigate, and engage fully with the challenge, and that dopamine reinforces the behavior, creating a cycle where your mind starts craving complexity and growth. You can cultivate this mindset deliberately. Start small. The next time you face a tough situation, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn here? How can I experiment? What is this situation showing me about myself, about others, about the world? Let that question guide you. Watch as your perspective shifts, as your anxiety diminishes, and as your brain begins to engage instead of resist. Over time, your mind rewires to naturally approach challenges this way. What once felt intimidating now feels intriguing. What once paralyzed you now excites you. You begin to crave the very difficulties that once terrified you because curiosity transforms them into opportunities. And it doesn't stop at mental growth. Curiosity transforms your energy, your emotions, your relationships. When you face a conflict with curiosity, you listen more, understand more, and respond more effectively. When you face a personal setback, curiosity helps you analyze your choices, adjust your strategy, and move forward stronger. When you face uncertainty, curiosity keeps you engaged, attentive, and creative rather than anxious, passive, or fearful. It's not just a mental trick. It's a lifestyle that rewires your brain to embrace growth, complexity, and challenge in every area of life. One of the most powerful aspects of curiosity is that it transforms your internal dialogue. Instead of your mind repeating fears, doubts, and I can't messages, it begins asking questions, exploring possibilities, and seeking solutions. You start to replace self-limiting beliefs with empowering ones. I might fail becomes, what can I discover if I try? This is too hard becomes, how can I figure this out? Your language changes, your mindset shifts, and your brain begins craving more of the experiences that build mastery. And here's the real secret: curiosity doesn't just help you survive challenges, it makes you thrive in them. It turns fear into fuel, pressure into opportunity, stress into energy. When you approach every challenge with curiosity, your brain rewires to see growth everywhere. You begin to see your life as a laboratory, a playground, a place to experiment, explore, and expand. And once that craving for growth takes hold, you will never look at difficulty the same way again. You will start to seek it, to embrace it, to enjoy it. So start today. Notice the challenges in your life. Ask questions instead of shrinking back. Approach every difficulty with fascination, investigation, and a hunger to learn. Celebrate the insights you gain, even if the results aren't perfect. Each step strengthens your brain, reshapes your perspective, and trains your mind to crave complexity, growth, and challenge. The shift may feel subtle at first, but over time it becomes unstoppable. Curiosity becomes your default state, and with it, your life transforms. You stop fearing what's hard. You start seeking what stretches you. You stop avoiding obstacles. You start craving them because they are the very fuel that creates your transformation. And when you truly embrace curiosity, you'll notice something amazing. The challenges that once seemed impossible will now excite you. The setbacks that once discouraged you will now teach you. The obstacles that once intimidated you will now push you forward. And that, my friend, is when you step into a life where growth, mastery, and unstoppable momentum become not just possible, but inevitable. Most people think stress is the enemy. They think stress is something to avoid, something that weakens you, something that damages your mind and body. And it's true, chronic, unmanaged stress can hurt you, but there's a completely different way to see it. Stress is not inherently bad. In fact, stress, when approached correctly, is one of the greatest tools for building strength, resilience, and mental toughness. Your nervous system is designed to respond to stress, to adapt, to grow stronger under pressure. The problem is that most people experience stress as overwhelming, unpredictable, and unmanageable. They let it control them instead of learning to control it. But once you understand how to harness stress, once you understand how to use it strategically, it becomes fuel for growth, not a threat to your life. Think about how the body works. When you lift weights, you create stress on your muscles. Tiny tears form, discomfort arises, and yet that stress is exactly what triggers growth. Without that stress, your muscles would never get stronger. The same principle applies to your brain and your life. The challenges, the high-pressure situations, the moments that make your heart race, these are the weights for your mind. They create the conditions for growth, for adaptation, for strength. And the more you expose yourself to manageable stress, the more your mind and body begin to crave it. The brain begins to see challenge not as danger, but as opportunity. Here's the key: it's not about avoiding stress, it's about controlling it. Most people let stress control them. They react, they panic, they shut down. But you can learn to approach stress with strategy. You can condition your mind to see stress as a signal that you are about to grow. Every time your heart beats faster, every time your mind races, every time you feel pressure, it's a signal that you are alive, that you are being pushed to your limits, that you have the chance to become stronger. And when you start to interpret stress this way, something incredible happens. Your brain begins to crave it. You start seeking challenges that stretch you because the stress becomes a signal of progress rather than a warning of danger. Think about elite athletes, think about high performers in any field. They don't avoid pressure, they thrive in it. Why? Because they've trained their nervous system to respond differently. Stress becomes a tool, not an obstacle. The faster their heart races, the more focused their mind becomes. The higher the stakes, the more energized they feel. That is the state you can create for yourself, deliberately, intentionally, strategically. The moments that used to scare you now excite you because your brain has learned to crave the fuel of challenge. And here's the fascinating part. This craving doesn't just happen naturally. You have to create it. You have to practice it. You have to put yourself in controlled, manageable stress situations so that your brain can learn to respond with strength rather than fear. Start small. Push yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Take on tasks that stretch you just beyond your comfort zone. Confront situations you've been avoiding. Every time you face manageable stress, navigate it successfully, your brain releases chemicals that reinforce strength, resilience, and confidence. You begin to associate pressure with growth, not with pain or failure. Over time, the nervous system adapts, and what once felt overwhelming now feels invigorating. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not about reckless exposure to stress. It's about controlled, intentional stress. It's about creating situations that push you, challenge you, and stretch your limits. but in ways that you can handle and learn from. That's the sweet spot where growth happens. Too little stress and you stagnate, too much stress and you collapse. But the right amount of challenge, the amount that stretches you just beyond what you thought possible, is what rewires your brain to crave growth, to thrive under pressure, to become unstoppable. And here's something that most people miss. The brain actually loves patterns of challenge. Once it learns that stress is not a threat, but a signal of growth, it starts seeking it. It starts craving the very moments that force you to stretch, to adapt, to overcome. That's why people who regularly embrace challenges become unstoppable. They're literally rewiring their nervous system to seek growth, to thrive under pressure, to enjoy the high that comes from stretching themselves. The stress is no longer the enemy. It becomes the fuel that propels them forward. Imagine facing a high-stakes situation, something that would have paralyzed you a year ago. You walk into it and feel your heart racing. Your mind is alert. You feel alive. Instead of fear, you feel energy. Instead of hesitation, you feel focus. Instead of panic, you feel clarity. That is the power of training your brain to crave stress. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are no longer reacting to life. You are leading it. You are thriving in situations that would have crushed someone else. And the more you do this, the more your brain begins to seek these opportunities. The pressure becomes addictive because it is the signal of growth, of progress, of becoming more than you were yesterday. And let's not forget the psychological side. Stress creates opportunity for mastery. It forces you to problem solve, to innovate, to push past limitations. It forces you to confront fear and doubt. And each time you navigate stress successfully, your confidence grows exponentially. You realize, I can handle more than I thought. I am stronger than I imagined. That confidence feeds your brain's desire for challenge. You start seeking situations that stretch you even further because you've learned that growth lies on the other side of discomfort. The amazing thing is, this isn't limited to physical or professional challenges. Emotional and mental stress works the same way. Facing difficult conversations, tackling problems you've been avoiding, confronting your own insecurities, these are all forms of stress that can rewire your brain when approached strategically. Each time you embrace discomfort, each time you lean into challenge, each time you refuse to shrink from pressure, your nervous system strengthens. You become more resilient, more focused, more capable. And the brain begins to crave it because it knows this is how you evolve, how you grow, how you transform. So start today. Notice the moments of pressure in your life. Don't shrink from them. Don't wish they weren't there. Welcome them. Lean into them. Treat stress as a signal that you are alive, that you are growing, that you are building strength. The moments that once frightened you now excite you. The challenges that once paralyzed you now propel you forward. Every time you step into manageable stress, your brain rewires itself. Every time you push yourself just beyond your limits, your nervous system adapts, craving more growth, more challenge, more progress. And when you truly master this, you will notice a transformation in everything you do. You will thrive in situations others avoid. You will take on challenges that most people run from. You will perform under pressure in ways you never thought possible, and the energy, the confidence, the unstoppable momentum you feel will come not from luck, not from talent, not from circumstance, but from your ability to harness stress, to see it as fuel, to crave it as the catalyst for growth. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools you have, yet so few people actually use it effectively. Most people see it as a nice exercise, something fluffy, something that might make them feel good for a few minutes. But the truth is, visualization is the bridge between where you are and the life you want to create. It's the secret weapon of high performers, the mental rehearsal that primes your brain to succeed before you even take a single action. And the beauty of it is that it works for anyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, what challenges you face, or what resources you have. Your mind can be trained to see success, to feel it, to anticipate it, and the more real you make it in your mind, the more inevitable it becomes in your life. Here's the thing most people don't understand. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. When you visualize yourself overcoming a challenge, nailing a presentation, running that race, having that tough conversation with confidence, or achieving a long-held goal, your nervous system responds as if it's real. Your heart rate adjusts. Your muscles fire. Your mind engages the pathways that you will need in the real-life scenario. And when you repeat this mental rehearsal over and over again, your brain begins to believe it, to prepare for it, to crave it. Visualization doesn't just inspire, it physically primes your brain for action, rewiring it for success. Think about it before elite athletes compete. They spend hours visualizing every detail of their performance, every movement, every turn, every pass, every finish line crossed. They see it all clearly in their mind. And when they step onto the field, the court, or the track, their bodies execute the plan almost effortlessly. Why? Because their brains have already lived it, their minds have already rehearsed it, and the same principle applies to you in any area of your life. When you face a challenge, when you confront difficulty, when you step into a situation that once intimidated you, the visualization you've practiced becomes a mental blueprint, a guide, a source of confidence that propels you forward. Now let's bring this closer to home. Imagine a challenge that has been weighing on you. Maybe it's a professional goal, a personal dream, or a confrontation you've been avoiding. Most people approach it with anxiety, with hesitation, with self-doubt. They focus on the obstacles, the risks, the worst case scenarios. But if you use visualization, everything changes. Instead of seeing the problem, you see yourself thriving within it. You see yourself navigating every obstacle with clarity, skill, and confidence. You see yourself taking decisive action, handling pressure, and emerging victorious. Your brain begins to internalize that success as if it has already happened. And when the moment arrives, your mind and body are already prepared to perform because you have rehearsed it so vividly that it feels real. Visualization also shapes your emotional response. Fear, doubt, and hesitation are often what hold people back, not lack of skill. When you mentally rehearse success, you condition your nervous system to respond with calm, focus, and confidence rather than panic, stress, or avoidance. You teach your brain that you are capable, that you can handle difficulty, that you are resilient. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Challenges that once made your heart race with fear now excite you. Obstacles that once paralyzed you now energize you. You start stepping into situations that would have intimidated you before with anticipation rather than anxiety. And here's the critical piece: visualization is not passive. It's not sitting quietly and wishing things would happen. It's active, intense, and detailed. You must see it, feel it, hear it, even smell it. Make it as real as possible in your mind. Imagine every detail of the challenge you want to conquer. Imagine the environment, the people, the obstacles. Imagine the exact actions you take to overcome it. Imagine the emotions, the confidence, the focus, the determination, the exhilaration of success. The more your brain experiences it as real, the more it begins to act in real life as if it has already happened. Visualization creates a neurological rehearsal, a mental blueprint that your brain cannot ignore. Another powerful aspect of visualization is its ability to create momentum before action. Most people wait for confidence to arrive before they take action, but confidence rarely comes first. It is built through preparation, through mental rehearsal, through visualization. When you practice seeing yourself succeed, your mind starts generating the emotional and physiological state of success. You step into action not hoping it will work out, but knowing that your brain is already aligned for it. The fear, the hesitation, the self-doubt, these lose their power because your mind has already experienced victory. And it compounds over time. Each time you visualize success and then take action, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. Your brain becomes addicted to the feeling of thriving under pressure, solving problems, and achieving goals. You begin to crave challenges because you know you can handle them. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You begin to approach life with a sense of mastery and confidence that comes from repeated mental rehearsal. Visualization is not a magic trick. It is the tool that transforms preparation into performance, imagination into reality, and fear into fuel. Here's a final thought: the brain loves clarity. The more clearly you see your goal, the more vividly you rehearse your success, the more your brain begins to recognize the path forward. Uncertainty breeds hesitation. Visualization eliminates doubt. It creates a roadmap for your mind and body to follow. It allows you to experience success before it happens, and by doing so, it rewires your nervous system to crave, anticipate, and achieve it. Life begins to feel less random, less intimidating, and more like a series of challenges you are ready to conquer. So start today, close your eyes and see yourself thriving in the challenges ahead. Imagine every detail, feel every emotion, hear every sound. Sense the exhilaration of navigating difficulty with skill, focus, and confidence. Repeat it often. Make it as real in your mind as you want it to be in your life. Your brain will begin to respond. Your nervous system will begin to prime itself. Your energy will shift. Your confidence will rise. And when you face the real world challenge, your mind and body will already be trained for success. When you embrace visualization as a daily practice, you stop fearing difficulty. You start anticipating growth. You stop avoiding challenges. You start craving them. You stop hoping for success. You begin to live it in your mind, and soon enough, your life follows. Visualization is the secret bridge between what is and what can be, between fear and mastery, between hesitation and unstoppable momentum. Most people want transformation, but they look for shortcuts. They want to wake up one day and magically be stronger, more disciplined, more confident. But growth doesn't happen that way. Growth happens in the small moments, in the habits you build, in the tiny decisions you make every single day. That's why the concept of habit stacking is so powerful. Habit stacking is about deliberately creating small actions that push you just beyond your comfort zone, one after another, so that your brain begins to crave growth, challenge, and progress. It's about taking consistent steps that compound over time, shaping your mind, body, and life in ways that seem almost effortless once the pattern is established. Here's the truth: most people fail not because they lack talent or potential, but because they lack consistency. They try to make massive leaps all at once, and when the challenge feels overwhelming, they quit. Habit stacking changes everything. It allows you to start small, to win small, and then to build those wins into momentum. Each small action becomes a stepping stone to something greater, and over time, the cumulative effect is extraordinary. Your brain begins to crave growth because it experiences it incrementally, and it knows that each small step is moving you closer to mastery. Let's make it real. Imagine you want to become more disciplined, more focused, and stronger both mentally and physically. Instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight, you start with small, deliberate habits. You wake up 10 minutes earlier and spend that time reading or reflecting. You add a 5-minute exercise routine before work. You tackle one challenging task before checking email. Each small habit stacks on top of the other, and with every action, your brain receives proof that you are capable, that you can handle difficulty, That growth is possible. Over time, these small habits compound into a life of unstoppable momentum. The power habit stacking is not just in the repetition, it's in the way it rewires your brain. Each time you intentionally push yourself, even just a little, you create new neural pathways. You strengthen the circuits of discipline, resilience, and focus. You train your brain to see challenge as normal, as necessary, as desirable. And the more you do this, the more your mind begins to crave it. You start to look forward to the discomfort because you know it's where growth happens. What once felt hard becomes routine, and what once felt impossible becomes achievable. And here's the thing most people overlook. Habit stacking works best when it's tied to identity, not just goals. Anyone can try to wake up early or go to the gym, but if you do it just to tick a box, you won't last. The real power comes when each habit reinforces the identity you want to embody. You don't just wake up early, you wake up as someone who takes control of their life. You don't just do a workout, you do it as someone who is strong, disciplined, and unstoppable. You don't just tackle a task, you do it as someone who thrives under pressure and seeks growth. Each habit becomes a declaration of who you are, and your brain responds by reinforcing that identity. The habits stack, and your identity solidifies, creating a feedback loop that makes challenge addictive. Another key element is progressive growth. Habit stacking is not about static routines, it's about building layers of challenge. Start small, yes, but then incrementally increase the difficulty. Push yourself slightly further each day, each week, each month. Add a rep, increase the intensity, expand your focus, take on a slightly more difficult task. This incremental growth keeps your brain engaged, keeps your nervous system adapting, and keeps your mind craving the next level of challenge. The body and brain are designed to grow under progressive stress, and habit stacking gives you the structure to do it consistently without burnout, without overwhelm. And here's the hidden benefit. Habit stacking creates momentum that spills over into every area of your life. When you consistently take small, challenging actions, your brain begins to expect progress, your energy levels rise, your confidence grows, your focus sharpens. You start seeing opportunities that you once ignored. You begin taking on challenges that others avoid because your mind craves growth. You start living a life where difficulty excites you rather than intimidates you because your brain has been trained to see discomfort as the signal of progress. Habit stacking creates the neurological wiring for unstoppable momentum. But let me be clear, habit stacking is not about perfection. It's about consistency, commitment, and incremental improvement. Miss a step, reset, overcome the setback, move forward. Every small action counts, and your brain rewards effort, not perfection. Each time you return to the habit, you strengthen your neural pathways. Each small victory stacks on top of the other. Over time, the accumulation is extraordinary, and your mind begins to crave challenges naturally because it has been trained to experience progress repeatedly and reliably. Imagine the possibilities if you approach your entire life this way. Each day, you identify the habits that push you forward physically, mentally, emotionally, and you stack them deliberately. You train your body to handle stress and strain. You train your mind to tackle problems and embrace challenges. You train your emotions to stay steady under pressure. And over time, the combination of these small, consistent actions transforms your entire being. Your life becomes a series of small victories that compound into massive growth. You begin to crave the very challenges that once intimidated you because your brain now associates them with reward, momentum, and expansion. The magic of habit stacking is that it turns growth into a lifestyle rather than a struggle. You don't need extraordinary circumstances. You don't need bursts of motivation that come and go. You don't need luck or talent. What you need is a system, a deliberate, consistent, progressive approach to challenging yourself in small ways every day. And when you commit to that system, the results are inevitable. Your brain adapts, your body adapts, your energy, confidence, and performance skyrocket. And eventually, challenge is no longer something to fear. It becomes something you crave, something that excites you, something that defines who you are. So start today. Identify one small habit that stretches you. Add another. Stack them deliberately. Make each habit an affirmation of the person you are becoming. Progressively increase the difficulty. Celebrate the small wins. Return when you falter. Over time, the stack builds momentum. Your brain craves growth. And the small actions compound into extraordinary results. The life you've been waiting for, the challenges you've been avoiding, the growth you've been seeking, the energy, confidence, and mastery you've been dreaming of. It starts here, one deliberate action at a time. And once your brain begins to crave growth, once it begins to thrive on challenge, once it begins to see progress as addictive, nothing will stop you. Habit stacking is the engine. You are the driver. Every small, deliberate action accelerates your transformation, rewires your mind, and creates a life where challenge is no longer avoided but sought after, no longer feared but craved. No longer a threat, but fuel for unstoppable momentum. One of the biggest mistakes people make when facing challenges is believing that obstacles are something to avoid, something that signals weakness, something that proves they aren't capable. But here's the truth, obstacles are the very things that shape greatness. They are the raw material for strength, resilience, and mastery. And the secret to craving challenges is learning to embrace them, to see them not as threats, but as opportunities. Obstacles are not the enemy, they are the path. They are the proof that you are on the edge of growth. And the more you lean into them, the more your brain begins to rewire itself to crave exactly what most people run from. Think about the times in your life when you overcame something difficult. Maybe it was a personal struggle, a professional challenge, or a moment of crisis. How did you feel afterwards? Stronger, more capable, more confident. That feeling That sense of accomplishment is what your brain begins to crave once it understands that challenges lead to growth. But most people never get there because they avoid obstacles. They see a roadblock and give up. They see difficulty and procrastinate. They see fear and retreat. And so their brain never learns to associate challenge with reward. It never learns that difficulty is delicious, that growth is addictive, that the moments that test you most are the moments that build you into someone unstoppable. Here's the key: obstacles are inevitable, but how you respond to them is optional. You can see them as barriers that block your way, or you can see them as invitations to grow, to innovate, to evolve. Your mindset determines whether an obstacle crushes you or propels you. And when you adopt the mindset that obstacles are fuel for growth, your brain begins to crave them. The nervous system loves challenge once it learns that challenge leads to progress. The brain begins to anticipate the exhilaration that comes from overcoming difficulty. What once felt stressful now feels energizing. What once felt intimidating now feels exciting. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you're working on a project and suddenly an unexpected problem arises. Most people panic, complain, or freeze. But if you approach the same situation as an opportunity, a puzzle to solve, a chance to grow, a test of your skills, you engage your brain's problem-solving capacity. You activate creativity, resourcefulness, and focus. You start experimenting, testing strategies, and exploring solutions. And with every small victory along the way, your brain releases dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and teaching your mind to crave the challenge instead of fearing it. That is how obstacles transform from enemies into allies. And here's the fascinating part: your brain thrives on mastery. When you successfully navigate an obstacle, your mind experiences a sense of achievement, competence, and empowerment. That feeling is addictive. The more you experience it, the more you crave it. And obstacles are abundant, waiting for you at every turn. The moment you embrace them instead of avoiding them, your mind begins to associate difficulty with excitement, reward, and growth. You start seeking challenges rather than fleeing from them. You begin to see life differently, recognizing that the hardest moments contain the greatest opportunities. Obstacles also teach resilience in ways that easy wins never can. When everything is smooth, when nothing challenges you, your brain never learns that you are capable of more. But when difficulty arises and you rise to the occasion, your brain takes note. It strengthens neural pathways that reinforce confidence, determination, and problem solving. You learn that you are capable of handling more than you imagined. You learn that the obstacles are not there to punish you. They are there to push you forward. And each time you overcome one, your mind begins to crave the next because it knows that growth is waiting on the other side. Another critical aspect of embracing obstacles is shifting your language and perception. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," you say, "This is my opportunity." Instead of thinking, "I can't handle this," you say, "I can figure this out. I can grow through this." The words you use shape the neural pathways in your brain. When you consistently frame obstacles as opportunities, your nervous system begins to anticipate success rather than fear failure. You begin to crave challenge because your mind learns that facing difficulty is not just tolerable, it's exhilarating, rewarding, and transformative. Obstacles also accelerate learning. When you face a challenge, you are forced to adapt. You are forced to think creatively, to experiment, to test your limits. You gain insight that no comfort zone could ever provide. And every insight, every skill developed, every lesson learned reinforces the craving for growth. Your brain begins to associate struggle with mastery, difficulty with satisfaction, and challenge with reward. You start approaching life with the mindset of someone who thrives on tests, someone who seeks the edge, someone who sees every obstacle as an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. And the beauty is that this mindset compounds. The more obstacles you embrace, the stronger you become, the more confident you feel, the more you crave the very situations that once intimidated you. What once caused fear and hesitation now sparks excitement and curiosity. You begin to see your life as a series of opportunities to grow, learn, and thrive. Your brain has been rewired to love the challenge because it understands the reward that follows. You no longer run from difficulty. You seek it, you welcome it, you thrive on it. So how do you start embracing obstacles today? First, shift your perception. See every challenge, every difficulty, every unexpected twist as a signal for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn here? How can I use this to become stronger? What opportunity is hidden in this problem? Second, take deliberate action. Don't wait for inspiration or courage to appear. Start moving. Each step forward, no matter how small, reinforces the neural pathways of resilience and craving for challenge. Third, celebrate every small victory along the way. Every obstacle you overcome is proof to your brain that challenge is rewarding, that growth is possible, and that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. And remember, obstacles are not just external, they are internal too. Your doubts, your fears, your limiting beliefs, these are obstacles waiting to be conquered. When you face them head on, when you challenge your own mind, when you refuse to be limited by self-imposed boundaries, your brain learns to crave even greater growth. The internal and external challenges work together to create a mind that is resilient, unstoppable, and hungry for more. Once you embrace this approach, you will notice a transformation in everything you do. Challenges no longer paralyze you. They energize you. Pressure no longer intimidates you. It excites you. Obstacles no longer feel like barriers. They become the fuel for your momentum. And the more you experience this, the more your brain rewires itself to crave growth, mastery, and challenge. You begin living a life where difficulty is not avoided, but sought after, not feared, but embraced, not resisted, but celebrated as the path to becoming your best self. One of the biggest challenges people face when trying to embrace difficulty is the story they tell themselves about their own limitations. They believe that they are constrained by talent, circumstance, or past failures. They think, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't handle this. But the truth is your potential is far greater than the stories you tell yourself. The brain is incredibly adaptive, and the narrative you feed it determines what it seeks, craves, and ultimately achieves. If you want to crave challenges, if you want your mind to actively pursue growth instead of avoiding it, you must master the art of mental reframing. You must learn to reshape your internal dialogue to align with possibility, strength, and expansion. Mental reframing is about seeing the same situation through a different lens. It's about recognizing that every challenge carries not just difficulty, but opportunity. It's about understanding that every moment of discomfort is a sign that growth is available, that your brain is being stretched, that your skills are being sharpened. When you reframe your experiences in this way, your nervous system responds. Stress becomes excitement, fear becomes anticipation, obstacles become opportunities, and over time, your brain begins to crave these experiences because it associates them with reward, mastery, and expansion. Think about how reframing works in daily life. You face a problem at work that seems overwhelming. Instead of telling yourself, this is impossible, I can't handle it, you say, this is my chance to grow, to learn, to prove myself. Your brain shifts its focus from threat to solution. Your body responds with clarity and energy instead of fear. Your mind starts scanning for opportunities, for patterns, for strategies that others might overlook. And each time you successfully navigate the challenge, your brain releases dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and teaching your mind to seek difficulty rather than avoid it. Reframing transforms your perception, and once your perception changes, your craving for challenge changes as well. Here's another important point. Mental reframing is not about ignoring reality. It's not about pretending challenges don't exist or that obstacles aren't hard. It's about changing your interpretation so that your mind can function at its highest capacity. Fear narrows focus, doubt paralyzes action, and self-criticism drains energy. Reframing, on the other hand, widens your perspective, energizes your nervous system, and primes your brain to tackle difficulty with curiosity, focus, and confidence. When you intentionally reframe, you are literally teaching your brain to find reward in challenge. You are training your mind to crave the growth that comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. Let's make this practical. The next time you feel resistance, hesitation, or fear, pause and ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? How can I use this challenge to become stronger, wiser, and more capable? Shift your focus from threat to opportunity. Notice how your body responds. You may feel tension at first, but as you lean into the perspective of growth, your energy changes. Your focus sharpens, your mind starts seeing possibilities instead of obstacles. And with each success, no matter how small, your brain begins to crave the very experiences that once intimidated you. Mental reframing also transforms failure. Most people fear failure because they see it as a reflection of who they are. But when you reframe failure as feedback, as data, as an opportunity to adjust and improve, your brain begins to associate difficulty with progress rather than punishment. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every obstacle you overcome reinforces the craving for challenge because your mind begins to understand that growth lies on the other side of resistance. You start seeking out opportunities to stretch because you know they lead to reward. And here's the beauty of it. Once your brain is trained to crave challenge through reframing, it begins to anticipate growth. You start noticing opportunities where others see only obstacles. You begin to step into high-pressure situations with energy instead of fear. You embrace complexity rather than avoiding it. The very moments that would have caused panic now excite you. Your nervous system begins to operate differently. Your brain begins to seek the stress, the pressure, the difficulty, because it knows that each one brings growth, satisfaction, and reward. Mental reframing doesn't just change your perception, it changes your reality. Another critical aspect of reframing is the language you use. Words shape the neural pathways in your brain. Replace limiting phrases like, I can't, and this is too hard with empowering alternatives like, I can figure this out, this is my opportunity, and I will grow through this. Over time, this consistent mental practice strengthens the circuits that support resilience, determination, and craving for growth. Your brain begins to expect challenge and anticipate reward, creating a cycle of momentum that compounds over time. Each reframed experience reinforces your identity as someone who thrives under pressure and seeks the challenges that build mastery. Reframing also affects your emotional state. Fear, frustration, and self-doubt are natural responses to difficulty, but they don't have to dominate your experience. When you reframe, your emotions shift from resistance to engagement. You feel curiosity instead of panic, excitement instead of hesitation, determination instead of doubt. Your brain learns that challenging situations are not threats. They're opportunities to grow, to test your limits, and to reinforce your capabilities. And the more your brain experiences this positive association, the more it craves the very challenges that once intimidated you. Consider this: the most successful, resilient people don't avoid difficulty, they embrace it. They interpret setbacks as lessons, problems as opportunities, pressure as fuel, and obstacles as invitations to grow. That mindset didn't happen by accident. It was trained through consistent mental reframing, deliberate focus on opportunities, and a commitment to seeing challenges as desirable rather than avoidable. And the result is a brain that seeks challenge, craves growth, and thrives under pressure. That is the mindset you can cultivate and the habits you can build starting today. So begin now. Notice the stories you tell yourself when you face difficulty. Challenge them, reframe them. Shift your focus from threat to opportunity, from limitation to possibility. Practice this daily with every challenge, every setback, every uncomfortable situation. Over time, your brain will begin to crave the very experiences that once intimidated you. You will approach life with curiosity, energy, and confidence. You will seek out growth rather than avoid it. You will thrive where others hesitate. And the challenges that once seemed impossible will become the fuel that propels you to your greatest achievements. If there is one thing that separates people who embrace challenges from those who avoid them, it is their ability to take full responsibility for their own growth and their own results. Most people look for excuses for someone else to blame or for conditions to be perfect before they act. They wait for motivation to appear, for circumstances to align, for the right time to come. But the truth is the right time never comes. The perfect circumstances rarely exist. And motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. The people who thrive, who crave difficulty, who rise under pressure, they don't wait for permission. They take control. They own their actions, their mindset, and their results. Responsibility is the ultimate catalyst for craving challenge, because when you own your growth, every difficulty becomes an opportunity to exercise power, skill, and mastery. Think about it. When you blame circumstances, you give away your power. When you wait for someone else to inspire you, you put your life in the hands of chance. But when you take responsibility, you put the power where it belongs. You realize that your life is a reflection of your choices, your decisions, and your actions. You start to see that challenges are not obstacles to your success. They are invitations to exercise your responsibility, to prove to yourself what you are capable of, and to step into the person you are meant to become. That mindset rewires your brain to crave growth because it becomes linked with agency, control, and achievement. Responsibility also reframes failure. When you accept responsibility, failure stops being a source of shame or fear. It becomes information. It becomes feedback. It becomes a roadmap for growth. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You ask, what can I learn? How can I improve? What is my next move? And when you consistently respond this way, your brain begins to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to apply skill, test limits, and grow stronger. Each time you navigate difficulty successfully, your sense of empowerment grows, and your brain begins to crave the very situations that once intimidated you. Here's the paradox: the more responsibility you take, the less fearful challenges become. Most people avoid difficulty because they feel powerless. They think the outcome is outside their control. But the truth is, you have far more influence than you realize. Every choice, every action, every response shapes the outcome. And when you internalize that power, your brain begins to associate challenge with agency, mastery, and reward. Suddenly, what once felt overwhelming now feels invigorating. Suddenly, pressure excites you. Suddenly, difficulty is no longer something to avoid. It becomes something to seek. Responsibility also demands clarity. You must define what you want, why you want it, and the standards you are willing to uphold in pursuit of it. Without clarity, action is scattered. Energy is wasted and challenges feel chaotic. But when you are clear about your goals, your principles, and your vision, every difficulty takes on a new meaning. Obstacles become opportunities to prove yourself. Challenges become tests of your commitment. Setbacks become stepping stones, and your brain begins to crave the situations that allow you to demonstrate your power, focus, and determination because they are now aligned with purpose. Taking responsibility also creates momentum. Every time you step up, make a decision, take action, and embrace difficulty, you reinforce neural pathways that strengthen resilience, courage, and resourcefulness. You create a feedback loop where action breeds confidence. Confidence breeds more action, and your brain begins to anticipate the rewards that come from leaning into challenges. Over time, this creates a life where difficulty is no longer avoided but sought after, where growth is no longer incidental but intentional, and where the nervous system craves the very experiences that build mastery. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine a situation where a major challenge arises. Most people freeze, complain, or blame external factors. But someone who fully embraces responsibility says, I own this, I will figure this out, I will take the actions necessary to succeed. That person scans for opportunities, explores solutions, experiments, and adapts. Every step reinforces competence, strengthens skill, and energizes the nervous system, and every success, no matter how small, reinforces the craving for challenge. Over time, this approach rewires the brain to seek difficulty because the brain learns that responsibility plus action equals growth, reward, and empowerment. Responsibility also transforms mindset. When you take ownership of your life, you stop waiting for others to validate you. You stop waiting for external circumstances to change. You stop hoping for luck to intervene. Instead, you create your own luck through action, consistency, and courage. You develop the inner confidence to face difficulty head on. Your brain begins to anticipate challenge rather than dread it because it understands that you are capable of handling it, mastering it, and benefiting from it. You stop reacting to life. You begin to lead it. And here's the beauty: responsibility compounds across every area of life. Your physical health improves when you take ownership of your habits. Your relationships thrive when you take ownership of your actions and communication. Your career advances when you take ownership of your learning, decisions, and performance. Your mind grows when you take ownership of your thoughts, beliefs, and interpretations. Responsibility is not a single act. It's a way of living, a mental framework that rewires your brain to crave challenge, because challenges become the arena in which you exercise your power and expand your capacity. It also aligns your energy. When you accept full responsibility, you stop wasting mental and emotional resources on blame, complaint, or fear. That energy is redirected toward problem-solving action, creativity, and mastery. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate skill, resilience, and determination. The brain begins to anticipate these experiences because they are rewarding, empowering, and growth-inducing. Over time, this habitual ownership rewires your nervous system so that difficulty, pressure, and high stakes are no longer threats. They are the fuel that propels you toward your highest potential. And the final piece is identity. When you consistently take responsibility, you begin to see yourself as the kind of person who rises to challenges, who thrives under pressure, who pursues growth relentlessly. That identity reinforces behavior. Your brain craves experiences that are aligned with who you believe yourself to be. And once responsibility is fully internalized, challenges no longer feel like obligations. They feel like invitations to live fully, to prove yourself, to expand your capabilities, and to experience the exhilaration of growth. So start today. Take full responsibility for your life, your mindset, your actions, and your growth. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for perfect circumstances. Step into your power. Own the challenges that come your way. Lean into difficulty. Treat every obstacle as an opportunity to demonstrate skill, resilience, and courage. And with each challenge you embrace, your brain will rewire itself to crave the very experiences that once intimidated you, creating a life where growth, mastery, and unstoppable momentum are inevitable.